Welcome to today's ASEAN Teachers webinar series, which is actually also the 2-year anniversary of the ASEAN Teacher webinar series. So this is I believe this is the first time or the first date where the first ASEAN Teacher webinar series went live. So it's a very special day for us as well here. Today I'm joined by amazing panelists, and we will be discussing the topic of planning lessons, which I think is a very important topic, since planning is part of the teacher's day-to-day life. It is something that you need to prepare sometimes way ahead of your class, even maybe a few months before your class. And then you need to also sometimes find activities that you need to do in your class. And planning is also important because it does help you to come up with engaging lessons, and also maybe to prepare the kind of goals and objectives that you want your lesson to achieve. Now, for today's event, a couple of things I would like to remind you is that, firstly, the session is being recorded and live streamed on British Council Teaching English Asia Facebook, and therefore, by attending, you acknowledge that your comments may be recorded and rebroadcasted. If you would like to ask questions, please type them in the Q&A box on Zoom chat or chat box on Facebook, and I will be the one who will present it to the panelists and then ask them to share their thoughts and opinions. At the end of the session, you will be given a link to complete a post-event survey. Link to download a certificate will be provided after you submit your feedback. So don't worry, everyone. Once you finish with this webinar, you can complete a post-event survey, which once you're done, you can get your e-certificate. And then please also remember to stay tuned until the end, because there will be some announcements regarding the forthcoming MOOC from in the Teaching English website, and also the details of our exciting event in October. Okay. So now I will start with the introduction. As I mentioned earlier, we have amazing panelists with us today, and I will allow them to introduce themselves. So we have, you can see in this screen right now, I'll start from panelists from Indonesia, followed from Myanmar, Thailand, and finally Vietnam. So please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Isri Laila Shatro. You can call me Isri. I teach in the English Education Study Program, the Faculty of Language Education at IKIP Siliwangi, Cimahi, West Java, Indonesia. I teach pre-service teacher of English since 2011. And then I also wrote non-fiction books in English as well as in Bahasa Indonesia. And also I teach non-fiction books as my hobbies. And then the latest publication which I wrote is the National English Textbook entitled Life Today for the 12th graders, published by the Ministry of Education in Indonesia. That's all. Nice to meet you, everyone.
Okay, so hello, good afternoon, everyone. I am Yi Singh. You may call me Yi or Yi. So I have been in the teaching industry for almost 9 years, studying as a study guide. Now I am an IGCSE instructor at a private university called Austin University in Myanmar. And I am also one of the active volunteers in Myanmar TESOL. This is a non-profit organization that provides gratis professional development for teachers. So I am also interested in readings and especially interested in linguistics. So I read some of the linguistic books, and so when I have a free time, and it's really have all of you today, and I'm really excited to share experience with all of you. Okay.
I am Patra Galia, currently teaching English for primary 5 and 6 in English program at Ban Chiang Mai School, Chiang Mai, Thailand. My teaching career started in 2010 from primary to high school with various contexts such as small size school, middle school, high school, and to extra large school with more than 2,000 students. Moreover, I have an experience working as a teacher trainer for Thai Ministry of Education's project since 2016. Thank you so much for having me here.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Vietnam. My name is Hieu Thuy, and you can call me Thuy. At the moment, I'm a lecturer of ELT methodology at the University of Languages and International Studies, Vietnam National University. I have been teaching at the university for more than 18 years, and I have been an author of a number of textbooks in English for EFL learners. And the most recent ones are the Global Success English textbook for lower secondary school level students and the My Little Fun series for preschool children. I also work closely with the National Language Project and their partner as a training course designer, a material developer, and also a teacher trainer. And my research interests include teacher education, multimodal discourse analysis, and language in the media. And I'm happy to be here today with you. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you very much for all panelists for introducing yourself. And we would also like to greet all the participants who have said hi in the chat. We have participants or viewers from Myanmar, from Cambodia, from Thailand, from Indonesia. Hello, everyone. And please feel free to continue to introduce yourself in the chat box, or even for you guys who are watching from Facebook Live, please feel free to introduce yourself so we all can get to know each other. And during the discussion session, if anyone who is watching from Facebook or here in Zoom wants to ask questions directly to our panelists, please do so, and we will do our best to try and facilitate them. Okay, so let's start with this discussion of a very interesting and exciting topic and something that's relatable for everyone, which is planning lessons. I have this one question that I would like to start with, and that is when we talk about planning lessons, we talk about models or framework that we use as teachers. So when it comes to planning lessons, what kind of models or lesson framework do you usually or normally use when you're planning your lessons? So I would like to start first asking Isri, how about your model? Go ahead.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. So when it comes to planning my lesson, but let me discuss the context of my college first. Yeah, so in my college, there are two types of classes. The first one is the regular, and then the second one is the employee one. So based on the placement test, regular classes usually consist of high to average to higher level students, but for the employee classes usually consist of lower level students. So for the lower level student, I usually use triple P's, yeah, or presentation, practice, and production framework. Yeah, because what? Because it provides high degree of scaffolding, yeah, and then the steps are concise. And then this framework give me as a teacher the opportunity to set up the real life language context, and then I give my students the opportunity to practice the language. Yeah, and then for the higher level student, I usually use the TBL or task-based learning. And then just because the core of TBL is the central task, yeah, or the main task, yeah. So the focus of the language is only used or learned after the task is complete. So in effect that my students are doing something while using the language. So I think that the two frameworks are beneficial in my context.
Hey, that's great, Isri. How about others? Do you have any similarity? Maybe I will ask to Nhi. How about you?
Yes, of course. So I'm quite familiar with the presentation, practice, and production stages that I use in my lesson model. And I also use the ESA. So this is the engage, steady, and elevate models. So that is written in the Jeremy Hammer. So that is really interesting and really effective in my lesson. And also in Myanmar, in the past, most of the teacher led the classes. So that's why if we want to change dramatically, we should start from the ESA. That's my perspective. So we should start with the engaged state that the learner can engage and can get their ski model activated at the time. They will have something to understand. Then they can study with the teachers together, and then their activation of the language is finally utilized with their personalization. That's my frame for my lessons.
Yeah, so we also see the same like PPP and also a lot of engagement in your activities. How about for Noi? How about in your school?
My schools follow a competency-based curriculum with the like active learning processes. But for me, it's quite complicated for me. So because there are a lot of conditions to making lesson plans. So I prefer the PPP model, the presentation, practice, and production for grammar, vocabulary, and speaking lessons, and the pre while post for receptive skills, lessons like reading and listening. For the PPP, so I think it's quite popular here in Thailand as well. Presentation, students have a chance to learn new language, like new vocabulary, new piece of grammar, and then practice, they introduce the target language to practice with the vocabulary or the grammar, and then they have a chance to produce their own language at the end in production stage. It's quite effective also, yeah.
Okay, so we also have another PPP and also, but this one you because you're using competency-based curriculum, so maybe there's a little bit different than the others, but we also see 3-4-3 now for PPP. How about for Thuy? How about in your school?
Yes, I'm with Thailand because I often use PPP when teaching language elements. And also I use pre-while post when it comes to the teaching of skills. I would like to emphasize that there may be different lesson models and lesson frameworks. And the choice of the lesson models and lesson frameworks depends a lot on the nature of the lesson that you are teaching. For example, if it is a project lesson, a project-based lesson, then I would use the following model. Firstly, I will start with the project preparation. Preparing for the driving questions and so on. And then I launched the project by clarifying the expectations and the products as well as the assessment criteria to the students. Then it comes to the inquiry process where the students are going to acquire knowledge and skills, and then they find solutions and they prepare for their presentation. And finally, the project conclusion where the students are going to present their findings and also be ready to receive feedback from teachers and students. So yeah, different lesson models and different lesson frameworks depending on the nature of the lesson.
Okay, thank you, Thuy. And this is also echoed by Amy Cantos, who were, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Amy Cantos. In the comment, she said that effective lesson planning involves considering the needs and abilities of your students, ensuring active engagement, and creating supportive environment. So she is also agreeing with you. And I think the supportive environment is something that is important. That if the student is comfortable, then they'll have a better time and they'll be able to also absorb the lessons better, hopefully. So if anyone in the Zoom room or in the live Facebook would like to also share what are their models or good framework when it comes to lesson planning, we would love to also hear from you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Now, when it comes to lesson planning, when we are planning, of course, we will think about the kind of materials that we'll be using. Either we will use only our textbooks, or we also use supplementary materials. Now, in this case, I would like to invite the panelists to share their thoughts about supplementary materials. So how do you choose your supplementary materials? when you're planning your lessons. So please go ahead and do answer this question. Anyone can start. Go ahead. Okay, so maybe I can ask from me first, maybe, if you are willing.
Yes, of course. Okay. So when it comes to supplementary, so students need to be reinforced in their learning. So students, we give the practice, the control practice, they also need the authentic practice. Sometimes the authentic practice is not enough. At the time, we should adapt, adjust, and tailor to the needs of the student. When I choose the supplementary materials, I usually consider whether is it age related, whether is it culture related, and then whether is it they are level related. And also the reliability of the material is one of the things that I consider when it comes to the supplementary materials. So that's my perspective. Yes.
Yeah.
So what about the others? Yes.
I would like to add some more thoughts about supplementary teaching materials. I agree with me that the use of supplementary materials will come when the original text or the source in the textbook is not enough to provide support or scaffoldings for the students. So supplementary materials can especially help in differentiating our instructions. And for me, my top considerations when choosing the materials would be the answers to the following questions. Firstly, does the material match with the aim of the lesson or not? And second, whether it matches with the age of the students, the level of their proficiency, and also the facilities in the classroom. Now, let me give you an example. You must know the Super Simple Songs channel, right? And the songs on that channel are quite simple and very active. But not all the songs over there may be suitable for English major students at university. So we may need to consider the age, the level, and also the interest of the students as well.
Thank you very much, sister. And is Ibu Istri or
yes,
Ibu
I want
Istri?
to
Okay,
add.
please go ahead.
Yeah. So almost the same with the answers from the others, that the first consideration when choosing the supplementary materials is when the main material is not enough, right? And then the first consideration, of course, is the relevance to the curriculum. As we all know, and maybe you don't know, but me myself know in Indonesia that curriculum in Indonesia change almost every 5 years, yeah, or almost every 4 years, yeah. So the relevance of the curriculum, the current one is curriculum Merdeka or freedom curriculum, and then the second one we need to make it suitable with the learning objectives. Yeah, so clear objective and then make it suitable with the supplementary material chosen. And then the next one is differentiation. Yeah, so different learning styles and then different supplementary materials will accommodate the learning styles. Yeah, and then of course about the student age, the student grade level, and then practicality and time constraint. Yeah, you know that supplementary materials is usually used in the reinforcement stage, I mean, or the several minutes before the class ends. Yeah, so the time constraint should be one of the important consideration. Yeah, so last but not least, supplementary material should be should stimulate student engagement. Yeah, I think that's the most important one in considering choosing the supplementary materials.
Okay, so does Noah have anything to add before I sum up the inputs or the responses from panelists?
For my context, my students in my school, there consists of 4 programs. So the English that all students learned, there's a subject that's all students in grade 5 and 6 need to learn, and then in the English program we have to focus on like English, like extra English. So when I find the supplementary materials, I consider it should be like it can like improve my students' English. So like practice more. So because the ordinary English is like too easy for them. Yes, that's.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, that is actually in line with what the others have also said about making the supplementary materials suitable with the learners' skills, with the learners' knowledge, and other than that, also making them practice the language, use the language that they're learning, and engage them into different kinds of activities or engage them to be involved in their learning. And there's also other things like does the supplementary material help relatable? Is it relatable with the lessons? Because sometimes, you may just want to put supplementary materials to fill in the time, or maybe to just have some fun thing to do, but it needs to be relatable. Even in some cases, also culturally relatable. I also have a few questions here in the quick Q&A. One of them is about differentiated instruction, which we actually will touch upon later. So this is about designing lesson plan for different varieties of students' levels. So to answer this, we will answer this when we get to that question. The second question is about materials for vocabulary and reading skills. This is interesting. So someone is asking about, do we need separate materials for vocabulary and reading skills? But I think in this case, supplementary materials maybe. So can you actually use one material to teach vocabulary and reading, or do you need different kinds of materials when you're planning your lessons for vocabulary and reading? So I give this to the panelists. Anyone would like to respond?
Okay, can I add? So sure. To my perspective, what I think is like, do we need separate materials for vocabulary and reading skills? So for example, for me, I am instructing the IGCSE students. So this is the exam focus. So at the time, so I will consider what and how am I doing for my students? So does it really need for the students? So are you emphasizing on the lessons? Are you emphasizing on the reading skills to improve for their exam or for their reading skill, for their lexical skill? So it depends on the teachers to reinforce the students' needs, and you should tailor to the students' needs. So that's my first consideration. Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to add maybe? Okay, so I think what we can say, conclude from what you just said. So when it comes to deciding whether you want to put reading or vocabulary skills using one material, it depends on the outcome of the lesson. It depends on the needs of the students, and it depends on the level of skill of the students as well. So the teacher needs to decide what is best for the lesson and for the students. So it's not like one size fits all. It depends on situation, depends on the target. So how about personalizing? So I think Lee was mentioning something about relatability. We also have one more question about culturally related. In this panelist right now, we have people coming from different cultures, even though we are from Southeast Asia, but we do have different cultural background. So how if you need to plan a lesson where the material, the source material, either the textbook or the supplementary materials, are not really, you need to personalize them. So how would you do it? How would you present that in your class? So does anyone would like to answer this question from the viewers?
From my perspective, when we have materials that are not related to students' culture and situational context, anyway, we will need to look at the aim or the objectives of having that material. For example, if the aim of the lesson is to help students with to improve their cultural awareness, so it is necessary to let the student get acquaintance to information about other cultures. So we can just go on with that one. And we can add the personalization to the material by, for example, adding a post-reading or post-listening activity that asks students to compare and contrast between that elements of culture in the material that they have just learned with the corresponding ones in their own culture. So that kind of task can spark a lot of discussion in the classroom and can help students to improve their cognition skills as well, which is of comparing and contrasting.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, so there is also, it's also interesting that we can actually make that into a lesson learn moment for the students. But on top of that, it's always about what is the objective, what is the goal of the lesson. If it can be achieved by being flexible, by actually maybe adding one more activity, or by personalizing the material, that can be done. But let's see what the objective first before we decide how to personalize the material. Okay, so there's a lot of very interesting questions. But then I have to move on to the next question. If there is, or the next topic of discussion, if there's any additional questions from the viewers, I will add that. So now it's about challenges. So before we were talking about the lesson models or the lesson frameworks when it comes to planning lessons. Now, we are going to touch upon the challenges when you have to introduce a new language. So let's say that you're planning a vocabulary lesson, or you're planning grammar lessons. You know, like it's something that's new. The students may do not have any background knowledge. So what do you do when you are in that situation, and how do you overcome the challenges? So let's start from Noi first. You can share your experience.
The challenges for me when introducing a new language is not fluency, but accuracy. Because as my students are in English program, so they can pick new language quite quickly. But the thing is, they can pick it quickly, but when they use it, or when they write or speak, they are not careful with the accuracy. So I would like them to make the most of their opportunity to be in English program. So I kind of focus or emphasize on accuracy. For example, in accuracy in pronunciation, in spelling, in grammar, especially in the productive skills. And the things that I start with the pronunciation is the stressed syllable and intonation. So I use Google. There are a lot of foreign teachers in our English program. So when I get to teach English, sometimes, I'm not native speaker, so I need to be very careful. And so I try to use media as much as possible. And online dictionaries and games and activities, drilling and repetition to treat activities like a game, so that students can have fun and it can help them with the memorizing. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yes, as especially as teachers who are not native speakers, we may find it's also a challenge for us to make sure that, or actually for us to be careful when we want to teach new knowledge to our students. So yeah, so it's always great if we can utilize technology in dealing with accuracy, especially accuracy. How about Istri?
Well, thank you very much. Based on my experience that introducing a new language can be very rewarding but challenging somehow. Based on my experience, the first one is about the student motivation of learning, and then they usually are fear or making mistakes, and then their initial different background. So to overcome this, I usually create or choose the real world example, and then practical language application. And then the second one is about the student pronunciation and also grammar. You know that the grammar of English is different from Bahasa Indonesia. So I usually use the phonetic exercises, and then speech models and some others to improve their pronunciation. And then the next challenge that I usually found in my class is about the limited practice opportunities. You know that outside the classroom, student may have limited opportunities to practice the new language, because here in Indonesia, English is a foreign language. So I usually ask my students to join some language clubs, and then having conversation partner, and then join some online language exchange platforms, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think that's all from my point of view.
Thank you, Isri. So similar like Noi, the students sometimes have problems with pronunciation and how to practice that. And it's always important to maybe to do repetitions and also to encourage students to be proactive in terms of practicing not only in class but also outside of class. And how about Toy? How about what you think?
Yeah, I think that pronunciation is always a challenge when it comes to those who are not native speakers of English, right? And in many other cases, the problem for me or the challenge for me is that the new language is not does not appear in Vietnamese. For example, the pronunciation of some sounds or the ending sound, which is very important in English pronunciation, does not appear in Vietnamese. So in those cases, I think that a lot of scaffolding is needed here. For example, from the modeling of the teacher, and the modeling can be done in a number of ways. For example, by the teacher, by me, myself as a teacher, and also by utilizing the sample videos or audio recordings. And then a lot of drillings and practice is needed. And I also create activities that can help students to recycle the learned language. And I remind them of the differences between that language element and Vietnamese during the lesson. That is, I take opportunistic teaching for them. And I believe that practice makes perfect as well. And that's why I also encourage my students to use other some softwares and some apps in order for them to practice pronunciation. Yes, so that's for me.
That's great, Sorry. So I think you also echo what the experience of Isri here, where you also would like to encourage your learners to pursue outside of classroom, because when it comes to pronunciation, maybe 2 hours a day may not be enough for them to learn new pronunciations. How about you? What do you think about this?
Okay. So I think, so I would like to look at this from different perspectives. When I write the lesson plan, sometimes I do language analysis. So sometimes in my head or sometimes on word file. So at the time, I find the language analysis really quite challenging from 3 different points: meaning, form, and pronunciation. So for the meaning, so the student don't have enough lexical density. If I say, for example, matching activities, so at the time I'm trying to break down the language. So next one is language structure. Students may know some of the easy sentence structures. So, but if they are given the complex structures like inversion or like complex sentences, so at the time they might be very confused. So then I try to divide the task activities and break down the activities so that the student can get it. So finally, pronunciation. So most of Burmese students do not pronounce the ta sound or the final sound. So at the time, I use modeling and like correct trailing, individual trailing, and sometimes I use the native speaker voices to have exposure for the pronunciation. Yes, that's how I felt about the difficulties in introducing the new language items.
Okay, that's great. So I think it's similar to what Tui just said about, I think Tui mentioned about scaffolding before, where you try to build students' knowledge little by little. You try to also do the same, but firstly by knowing first the background of the students, and then try to see, okay, so the students may not be able to reach X, therefore I would like to start building from several steps before I can give them a little bit something more complicated or difficult. I guess that's what I can conclude. That's great, everyone. So I would like to also include some questions that I see here in the Q&A. Something to do with, okay, so when you're planning your lessons, you may not only think about your materials, but also your classroom situation, and that includes classroom setting. So how does your classroom setting, what do you do when you're planning? How do you include the classroom setting in your planning? Either maybe the seating arrangement or the position or something that can be related to that. So how do you measure and evaluate classroom setting when designing lesson plans? Anyone would like to contribute to that answer? Okay, so if I may read, so let's just say if when you're planning your lessons in your classroom setting, do you normally have them working in pairs, or do you have them working individually, or do you have them what normally happens in your class, and how do you link that with lesson planning?
Yeah. I think that I have some ideas to share with this one. So classroom settings are really important when we consider how we plan our lesson and how we deliver our lesson, especially when we put students in pair work and group work. So in many classes in Vietnam, the chairs and the tables are fixed, so they're not movable. So generally, there will not be a lot of space in the classroom for the students to to move around. And also the time constraint of a lesson also should be taken into account. So for pair work and group work, I will try to let them form the groups or the pairs at the most convenient. For example, those who are sitting in the same table can work together in this activity, and in the next activity, they can turn back and work with the person behind them. And but when I conduct my teacher training, for example, and I know that the room is larger and there are more spaces. There are more space in the class, so I can prepare for activities that require more space in the classroom. Another point that needs to be considered in classroom setting is about the facilities that we have available in the classroom. For the classes with Wi-Fi connection, for example, then we can be very confident to bring to the classroom some interactive games that needs internet connection. But for our classes without Wi-Fi connection, then I need to be more well prepared in that one. For example, downloading the video from the internet and then play the video offline in the class. So taking into consideration the classroom setting when I believe will help us to deliver the lesson more smoothly and also to avoid any technical problems that may appear during the lesson.
Yeah, so we need to see whether it's possible for us to make big group settings or small group settings, or if there's even possible for students to move. If it's not possible, then there's always a way for us to try and arrange the seating in order for them to not only work with limited people, but also with everyone in the classroom. I will also add one more question from the chat, and that is about when it comes to lesson planning. And I believe this question is, this is from the host. Okay, so how do you divide the time? Like, how do you allocate time for practice, and also for controlled practice and for freer practice? So when you do your lesson plannings, what are your considerations when you're allotting the time, when you decide the time allocation between freer practice and controlled practice, or any kind of like not only practice but only like, for example, lesson presentation and also practice? How do you allocate the time? Anyone can answer that?
Okay, well, I think it's up to the activities that we choose to use with our students and the interaction patterns. For example, if like it's pair work, the student can like sit next to them and they can talk to each other. So we can I can like limit time like maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And if it comes to like mingle, that students can like go around the classroom and talk to as many classmates as possible. So I will give them like more time because they enjoy talking a lot. And when the classroom is still like quite loud, you know, when the students like talking during activity, I can go around the classroom and monitor if they're like talking like about the lesson or not, or practice speaking or talking about something else. So that I can like control the time, and like maybe at first I will give them like 5 to 6 minutes. And if they still talking about the lesson, so I will like give them like a bit more time. But if they're like talking about something else, okay, now I just cut the time off. Yeah.
When they start gossiping, that's when it's time to stop.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Almost the same with Pat, that it depends. Yeah, the allocation time for our lesson is depends on the target of the lesson, right? If the target of the lesson, for example, needs more practice, so we put more allocation on practice. Yeah, and then even when we need to vary the interaction, whether it is whole class, pair work, group work, yeah. Uh, and then also depends on the learning style. Yeah, I mean, whether, and also the multiple intelligences of the student. If we think that most of our students are what is it called, interpersonal, who loves to work individually. Yeah, so we need to vary the instruction, so we put our students in pair and in groups, so the practice or the allocation time for practice is more, I think, like that.
Yeah, that's so depending on the skills, the target skills that needs to be attained. If it takes longer time, then of course you need to put longer time for that. If it's not, then you can take shorter time for that. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So I also thank you very much for the people who are asking questions either here or from Facebook. So I will now move on to our next topic of discussions, but please go ahead, keep the questions and comments coming. So we're gonna move on to the differentiated learning, which is something that a lot of the questions here are asking, and I'm sure a lot of teachers also find interesting topic to talk about. And this is about when you're trying to set your learning outcomes. So how do you set your learning outcomes, especially when you have learners with mixed abilities? So this is something that's going to be very interesting. So I'll start with Noi. Go ahead if you can share your thoughts on this.
Thank you. When I set learning outcomes, I will let's say I will consult with the national curriculum, their school curriculum, standards, indicators, and yes, definitely. My students, I will assess them at the beginning of the year, and then let's see who belongs to like strong groups, who belong to like average, and who belong to like slow group. Yeah, and then when I set let's say start from where they are, so like the outcome is not like too, let's say, too high that the slow student cannot achieve. They're gonna be like stressed out, right? And I think it's like normal classroom that even in English program, there are students who are good at English. There are students who are not good at English. So yeah, I try to like set like different goals for different abilities of learners.
Okay, so yeah, so make sure that you already have a knowledge about your own learner's ability before you set the goals for them. You don't want to like set just one goal for everyone, because everyone has their own different speed or skills or knowledge in terms of learning language. Thank you. And how about Nhi? Let's hear from you.
Okay, so from my perspective, I usually have the three things. So three things mean like a broad one, starting from the A, and then I move on to learning objective, and then finally to the learning outcomes. So I usually set my lesson like this. So when it comes to the learning outcomes, I usually think about the mixed ability group. So because most of the students in my class come from different backgrounds. So when I set them, I usually start with by the end of the lesson or after the end of the lesson. So by participating in this lesson, I use this phrase. And then I use Bloom taxonomy and SMART aims. And then I usually use behavioral verbs to set, to see whether my learning outcomes is observable or measurable. And I then put it in the context so that I can take my students to the place that they want to go. So then I can observe and adjust after the next lesson. Next one is I also ask feedback from my students so that I can prepare better learning outcome for the next lesson. That's how I usually prepare for my learning outcomes.
Okay, so you have your own tools, yeah? Yes, yes. You have your own tools ready from Bloom's taxonomy to SMART objectives before you actually even start planning your lessons. And you also touch on a very important part, which is feedback. It's always best to know what your students think about your lessons, whether you have achieved that if you listen directly from the students. Thank you. And how about for Tui? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I am with my colleagues on setting learning outcomes. I believe that whenever I set the learning outcomes for the lesson, I would consider the following questions. Firstly, what is the most important thing, or what are the most important things a student should know and be able to do or value after completing that lesson, and how that learning outcomes and how such learning outcomes can fit into the whole learning course, into the outcome of the whole course or the whole subject. And I also use Bloom taxonomy verbs for identifying what the student need to be able to do, and make sure that the learning outcomes, the learning objectives that I write for the lesson are smart. That is, they should be able to respond to the SMART objectives. And then when I plan my lesson, I also make sure that the activity would target the learning outcomes and contribute to the realization of such learning outcomes. And of course, in almost all classes, the students are of mixed abilities. So I would set different expectations for different levels of learners in the classroom. Now let me give you an example of what I have done. In grade 8, for grade 8 students, they will need to write a review. So the writing lesson is on writing a review, and the learning outcome is that by the end of the lesson, the student should be able to write a review of 100 words for a product that they recommend using. So I would imagine that in order to achieve this aim, in terms of language, the students would need adjectives to describe the product and the verbs to tell its function. And they should be able to write sentences, of course. And the lesson would also help students to analyze the product that they often use and make comparison and contrast. And students may think again about the product on the process of reviewing it. And I also set different expectations for different levels of students too. For example, more able students would write a mix of complex and simple sentences in the review, but the less able student may write simple sentences. That's okay. So that's what I have done with learning outcomes and mixed ability class.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I think as a teacher, sometimes when we plan our lessons, we become a dreamer. Yeah, we need to imagine. We need to imagine an ideal classroom in a way to reach our objectives and try to get there. I think that's a lot of the things that teachers do while you're planning lessons. A lot of reflections, a lot of imaginations, a lot of trying to get to you where we want the students to be. That is a great example, Tui. And Isri, go ahead.
All right. When setting the learning outcomes, especially when my learners are make ability classes, you know that the first one is, of course, that we need to know our students. Who are our students? What are their learning styles? In what level are their proficiency? And then what are their multiple intelligences? And then that's the key point. The first one. And then the second one is the learning objectives. Which skills is our target? Accuracy or fluency? And then what are our expectation? It should be realistic, and then it should be it should use a clear and measurable language, or in Bahasa Indonesia we are very familiar with the word kata kerja operasional, which can be measured, and then we can assess it by the rubrics, and then same as the others, the outcomes, the outcomes can be varied, not only use the taxonomy of Bloom, started from remembering, and then understanding, but also until the creating pace, and then we also need to consider about the target, the outcomes, whether it is related to the cognitive aspects, yeah, and then affective aspects, or also psychomotor aspects. Yeah, those are what the important factors when we set the learning outcomes. So we need to make sure that our diverse students have the same opportunity to learn. I think that's all, Mbak Dian.
That's good. Thank you, Isri. So basically, we need, again, echoing what everyone has said, not only we have the tools ready for planning lessons, we need to also to know our students, know what they aim, and that what Isri has said is about to be about making sure that they are measurable as well, because like Tui has said, every class will have mixed ability students. Then we need to make sure that the lesson plan, the objectives that we want them to achieve is measurable. We know that, okay, so for certain kinds of students, it's the objective may not be as much as the other kinds of students, but they can still be measured, and it also helps. It also helps them in their confidence as well for some groups of students. I will just give one question that I choose from the comments here, and it's about early finisher and late finisher. I think this is also something that you may have already experienced in your class. How do you deal with that problem when you have already imagined, you already have the lesson plans, you already prepared for the mixed ability class, and then suddenly there's people who are, like finish early or something like that. So how do you overcome that kind of situation? I will take maximum 2 answers from the panelists due to the time limitations. So go ahead.
So as for me, sometimes I try to let the earlier finisher help the slower learners. So at the time they can discuss more, they can have new ideas together. At the time they are learning, they both have the learning opportunity. They will see a new ideas. So at the time it can have like how should I say, a way to solve the differences between the earlier and the slower finishers. Yes, that's what I usually do.
Okay, so make them help each other. Yeah, so to make sure that everyone also benefit. Okay, I'll take one more response from the panelists.
I want to add, yeah, I agree with what Nhi said, that grouping is the key point, right? We need to group the students and then make sure that the group consists of strong and then weak students, and then they help each other, and then strong students become the mentor friend for the other friends. I think that's all.
Okay, yeah, so and this also can help them to have empathy, help them to actually have being helpful for others as well, and at the same time give them something to do but then something is beneficial for not only them but also the friends that they help. So thank you very much for this very engaging and interesting discussions. And thank you very much for everyone from the Facebook Live and also in the comment who have contributed in commenting or giving questions. I apologize that I'm not able to accommodate everyone's questions, but I do hope that the questions that we accommodated and the answers provided is helpful for you. Now, please stay tuned. We're not finished yet because the panelists will share their top tips in terms of planning lessons. But before, and then I think the events may be just slightly a little bit over time, but before the panelists share their top tips, I would like to just give several announcements in relation to some of the activities that will happen in the Teaching English website in the coming months or coming weeks even. So, so basically the first one will be, this is based on the planning lessons MOOC that is happening in Teaching English at the moment, Teaching English website. So do please join that that MOOC. You will learn even more than what you have learned today, hopefully. So you can join this MOOC. It starts 12 September until 9th of October, and there is going to be a professional development certificate awarded. And I do hope the host will help in sharing the link that is going to be useful when you want to join this MOOC event. And we also have other activities. There's also Teaching English through literature. This is also a very interesting MOOC. Basically, it shows you how to teach English using literature, using English books. How do you get to make them not only have ability to read, but also to produce something out of that reading. This is also going to be available from the 5th September until the 2nd October. And there's also AI, something that's very, very hip right now, something that a lot of people are discussing. And this is about AI in English language teaching, past, present, and future. There's going to be an event, an interactive webinar about this. And this is going to be Thursday, 28th of September from 4 to 4:45. And there's going to be a registration link here, and the host hopefully can help us share this as well. And it's going to be a very interesting interactive webinar for sure, because this is about something that is at the moment is a very hot topic, which is AI in English language. And then another one will be a webinar for teacher educators. And this is going to be about the key principles for planning effective continuing professional development programs for teachers. So for teachers who wants to continue their professional development, how do you plan that? How do you make sure that you attain your goals? Then you can attend this webinar series. Registration is necessary. So again, there's a link here that hopefully the host can help share. And then we also have event from for the host from Myanmar here. And this is about community-based inclusive education. Also, when we talk about education, we need to make sure that everyone is not left behind, everyone is included and related to the mixed ability class students that we talked about today. So this is also going to be a very useful webinar for you. There's going to be a link here that you can go to join or to register for the event. This is going to be on the 14th of September, 3:30 Myanmar time. And lastly, this is something that's very big that's happening in October. We wish everyone could join. We hope everyone could join. And this is going to be about Asian Teaching Conference, Asian Teaching English Conference. This is a very big conference where you get a lot of speakers from around Southeast Asia, or even from Asia, basically in general. This is going to be happening throughout October, starting from the 5th of October. And this is going to be a very full-packed event where there's going to be a lot of speakers, experts in their field, sharing about their teaching experience or their projects in relation to primary and secondary teachers or teacher educators across East Asia. There will be speakers from Indonesia, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, and also the UK. So do join the ASEAN webinar in September, and here you can learn it here, and then you also there will be also more announcements coming. Okay, so now before we I believe that is the last. Yes. So before I share the QR code for everyone to download their post-event survey and get the certificate, we would like to hear from the panelists their top tips. So what is the top tip when it comes to lesson planning? Okay, so I will start first from, we'll follow the order of the introduction before. So we'll start with Isri, and then we go to Nhi, and then we go to Noi and Leslie Toy. So go ahead.
Okay, for the top tip, okay. I think that there are three things that we need to consider when planning a lesson. The first one is objective. Yeah, clear the objective. And then set the clear objective. And then the second, vary the strategies. And last but not least is that we need to have another plan. Plan A, B, C. We don't know what happened in the class. So if plan A fails, so we move to plan B and plan C and so on. That's my tip top.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
Okay, so my top tip is like, think it through beforehand, and if needed, write it down, then adjust it in the class and enjoy the lesson with students. That's my top tip.
That is great. Okay, so
my top tips from me, start from where your learners are, take a small step, and be realistic, especially with the time.
That's great. Yeah, time. Need to remember sometimes we think go over time. Go ahead, Tay.
Okay. For me, I'm also concerned with setting learning outcomes. So my top tip is always set learning outcomes for your lesson. Well, I mentioned this one because a number of my pre-service teachers do not have this habit, and we spend a lot of time discussing this one together as well. And by sticking to the learning outcomes, then you can make informed decisions on choosing the materials, designing learning activities, and selecting appropriate teaching techniques within the time limitation.
That's great. Okay, so yeah, we also have to be mindful of time. And speaking of time, we are actually on time. So we finished exactly at 4. So I would like to then share this for everyone. Thank you so much for the panelists for taking the time to share amazing tips, to share knowledge, to share experience, which I believe will be very useful for everyone, not only who's watching, but also us here in this room. I hope we have learned from each other, and it will benefit our students as well. For viewers, this is the QR code where you can take a picture, or you can just put your camera there, and then you will be able to complete the post-event survey. And then once you finish with your post-event survey, you are able to download your e-certificate. So please don't forget to submit your feedback before so that you can get your e-certificate. So again, thank you very much for all the panelists. Thank you very much for the engaging discussion. Thank you very much for the viewers, for all the comments, for the questions. Apologies if we cannot go through everything, all the questions, but it's great questions. And we look forward to seeing you in our next event, ASEAN Teaching English conference. Yeah, so looking forward to see everyone there. And thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.